Alright, in this video we're going to cover solving multi-step equations, and that is 1.2. It's the beginning of our unit. We covered in the very beginning of this unit 1.1, we covered distributive property, and I have a video for that, for the distributive property, so please go there and watch it. Now it's 1.2, solving multi-step equation. There's going to be a 1.3 that's also going to be solving multi-step equation, but this one, the variable is on one side only, okay? And 1.3, the variable will be on both sides. So we're building up slowly. And this is going to correspond to worksheet 1.2 that I gave to you in class this Friday, yesterday. And you can either do the 1.2 worksheet that I gave you, or you can do Math Excel online if you were successful logged in. If not, we're going to try one more time this week to make sure we're good with Math Excel. Okay, I'm going to do a few problems here. On your worksheet that you have at home, I am going to try to do the problem 7, 9, 13, and 16. Hopefully the video will, I'll have enough storage to be able to cover all of these questions, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with question number 7, okay? Question number 7 is a word problem in your worksheet, okay? Yeah, question number 7 is a word problem. Let me pull it out here so we can see it. So let me cover as much of my work here, okay? So take a look over here at this word problem. I was preparing some notes, so I had already scribbled over. There we go. All right. So let's see. Okay. So a plumber finishes 3 jobs on Tuesday. The first 2 only cost the owner the $45 trip, the trip fee, because they took very little time to complete. So this guy, this plumber did 3 jobs. I'm going to call it job 1 plus job 2 plus job 3. Okay, he did 3 jobs, and the first 2 only cost the owner the $45 trip fee because it took very little time to complete it. So this first 2 right here only cost $45. For the third job, the plumber charged the trip fee plus 6 times the hourly rate. So there's $6. There's the $45 fee plus the $6 6 times the hourly rate. So I'm going to put that in parentheses, plus 45 fee plus the 6 times the hour. Okay. If the plumber received a total of 303 for the day, what is the hourly rate? Okay, and that is going to equal 303. So that is, the problem. We have to read it quite a few times to understand what is going on, and it is one of the students' most difficult thing is to read the word problems and really try to extract what it's saying. I had to read a couple of times because English is not my first language, so I had to read a few times as well. So there's a situation. We are trying to solve what is the hourly rate. In 1.2 here, we are working on solving multi-step equation. But we learned already about the distributive property, and we also learned about combining like terms. My goal here, let's write it down. What is my goal here? My goal of this is to get the variable. First, we want to get the variable. It's isolate the variable. In this case, the variable is this H right here, this hourly rate that he charged that I have no clue how much it was. We're trying to solve it. So the way to do this is to use the skills we learned in 1.1, which is distributive property, combine like terms if we can, and start using PEMDAS, the order of operations, backwards. So second thing we need to remember is the skills we use, the distributive property, combine like terms, combine like terms. And the last thing I said in class, we're going to use either distributive property, combine like terms, or something we learned in long time ago, which is PEMDAS, to solve for an equation. Okay, this is order of operations. So if I look at this and I say, well, I don't need to distribute anything here. I'm not multiplying, I am adding. So I don't need a distributive property. I don't need to combine like terms because I don't have any other variables to combine terms here. So I'm going to move on into my PEMDAS. But we have to work backwards when we're trying to solve for a variable. Okay, we work PEMDAS forward from please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We will start with parentheses if we are just dealing with numbers. Here we're not just dealing with numbers, we're dealing with variables as well. So because of that, we need to start from the back and undo all the operations so we can find out what is this variable here. So I'm going to start with subtraction or addition, whatever comes first. As a book, we read mathematical expressions from left to right. Whatever comes first, I'll take care of it, either subtraction or addition. So I'm starting from here. The first thing I see is a positive 45. So I'm going to undo this positive 45 by subtracting 45. If you subtract it from the left, you better subtract it from the right, okay? That is something that we do when we have a equal in the middle, okay? So now I don't have a 45 here anymore. For positive 45 minus negative 45 is 0. So now I just have my parentheses, which is 45 plus my 6 times the hour rate. And that is going to equal 303 minus 45, that's 250, 258, okay? 258. I don't have parentheses anymore. We usually put parentheses when there's other things around it, like I had a 45 around. Now I don't have anything around anymore, so I'm free to take my parentheses out. Okay, now we look at it, it says, okay, I don't have anything to distribute. I don't have any combining like terms here. I'm going to do my PEMDAS again. Whenever we get to a parenthesis, we got to start all over again. So I'm going to again do either addition or subtraction. I'm going to subtract 45 again on both sides, and we end up with our positive 45 minus 45. We end up with 6 times the hour equal 258 minus 45 is a 3, a 1, 213, okay? 213. Then we did addition and subtraction twice. We did it here and we did it here. Now we need to move on to either division or multiplication, whatever comes first. So I look at it and I say I am multiplying 6 times the hour. To undo multiplication, I need to divide. The opposite of multiplying is divide by 6. And if you do it to the left, you better do it to the right. Okay? My goal, it's right up here. I need to isolate the variable. That's my goal. Okay? So 6 divided by 6 is 1. So now I end up with just a 1 times my hour. And 213 divided by 6, that's 35.5. Okay? So the hourly rate is 35.5. He's charging $35.50. Okay? So you have to read the problem so you can set up correctly. Make sure you use parentheses when something it's happening like this. And then you start solving from there, okay, using your PEMDAS backward. That's the whole thing we're going to be doing here to solve for variables, okay? So that is number 7. Let's see what other problem we can do here. Let's try number 9, as I have promised. Let's try number 9, okay? Number 9 on your worksheet says 4 times the quantity of negative 2d minus 3, and that equals a 12. Okay? So we have this problem right here. It's not a word problem, so the students like it much better. It says solve each equation and then check your answers. Okay, so remember, we learned three things this week so far. We learned the distributive property. We learned to combine like terms. And we learned that we must use PEMDAS backwards if we want to solve for our unknown variable. And that's what we're doing here. We want to see, what is this number? What is this variable right here? The letter D. Okay? So for times a quantity, I'm going to have to use the distributive property. So let's use that first. 4, positive 4 times a negative 2D, that's a negative 8D. And positive 4 times a negative 3, that's a negative 12, and that whole thing equals a positive 12. Okay? All right, so I did distributive property. Do I need to combine like terms? Let's see, there's only negative 8D here. There's no more D's to combine. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. There is no combining like terms. I'm going to go ahead and move on to my order of operations backwards. I'm going to do addition or subtraction, whatever comes first. I'm going to read from left to right, and I'm going to go, okay, I'm trying to get this D all by itself, so let's leave it alone, and let's undo the negative 12. So I'm going to add positive 12. If you add it to the right, you better add it to the left as well, plus 12. Okay? So this positive 12 here, positive 12 here. Now this negative 12 with this positive 12 becomes 0. So I'm good here, and I got my negative 8D all by itself. I'm almost getting the D by itself. I'm almost there. 12 plus 12 is 24. Very nice. So we did addition and subtraction, either or. We got the 12 gone. Now I'm going to move on to either division or multiplication, whatever works, whatever I need, not works. So I look here and I say, well, negative 8 times a D, I need to, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. My goal is to get D all by itself. So I divide by exactly the same thing, which is negative 8. Divide by negative 8. A negative 8 divided by negative 8 becomes a 1, and then my D is alone. Okay, 1D. There we go. And negative 24 divided by 8, and that is a negative 3. And that is my answer. D equals negative 3. Okay? Now, they ask us on the information here, says solve for each equation and check your answers. So let's go over here on the side and check it, just to make sure we did it right. We check it by plugging things back in. Okay? My D value is a negative 3. Let's see if I did it right. I have a 4 times negative 2, and then my D now, I'm going to put parentheses, is a negative 3. So in place of a D, I have a negative 3. Minus a 3 equals a 12. Okay? So let's check. Let's do the order of operation. But now, because there is no variables, I am going to use PEMDAS, but not backwards. We're going to use it forward, okay, because there's no variables. I used it backwards because I was trying to undo things to solve for a variable. Now I'm just checking it, so I use PEMDAS forward. Okay, it says parenthesis first. That's the first thing I need to take care of it. I have a parenthesis inside of a parenthesis, so I'm going to take care of the first parenthesis. 4 times a negative 2 times my D value, which is a negative 3, is a positive 6. Minus the 3, which equals 12. Okay, I took care of the parentheses. We are not going to do exponent in this class. Now let's take care of, I'm still stuck inside the parentheses, so I still need to take care of that parenthesis. So 4 times 6 minus 3 is 3, which equals 12. Okay, now I'm done completely with parentheses. Now I take care of multiplication. 4 times 3 is 12, which it does equal 12. We're done. Okay? So what I want you to really notice here is that we go through the things we learned, see if we need to use them, and then I always get to solve my variable by using PEMDAS backwards, because that we got to undo all the things that were done to this to solve for that D value. And then you plug it back in to check your answer. Then you can go ahead and use your PEMDAS forward. Okay? Take care of parentheses until the parenthesis is completely free, just a one number, and then 4 times 3 is 12. Okay? And we're going to be doing this all the time in class. To undo for the variable, we use PEMDAS backward. To check, we use PEMDAS forward. Okay? So let's do number, let's cut it in here. Let's do number 13. Okay? And number 13 says, negative 14, oops, I need to move my paper forward. Okay. Number 13 says, negative 14 equals a negative 4 times positive 9x, is it 9x minus a 1, okay? So negative 14 equals negative 4 times 9x minus 1, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and go through our list. Do I need to use a distributive property? Yes, I have parentheses, I have a multiplier outside needing to multiply it in, so let's take care of that. Negative 14 equals negative 4 times 9 is negative 36x. Negative 4 times a negative 1 is a positive 4. Okay? So I use the distributive property. Oops, I'm missing my little rainbow here. There we go. I use my distributive property. And I don't need to combine like terms. Combine terms. I don't need to do that. There's nothing else to combine. There's only one x. My goal is to isolate the x value right here. And in order to do that, we're going to use the PEMDAS backwards. Okay? We're going to start with subtraction and addition, and then division or multiplication. Okay. So since there's nothing else to combine, I'm going to go ahead and start using my PEMDAS. I want to get everything away from x, isolate x. So I'm going to subtract the 4 first. Subtract the 4. If you do it to the left, you better do it to the right. Okay, so negative 4, positive 4 with negative 4, it's a 0. But negative 14 with a negative 4 is negative 28. And that equals negative 36x. Okay, and the 0 here is from the positive 4. Nice. Again, my goal is to isolate, get x all by itself. So I'm going to divide by exactly what is multiplying here, which is a negative 36. And divide by a negative 36. A negative 36 divided by a negative 36, that becomes a 1. Now I have just a 1x. My x is alone. And then here we have a negative divided by a negative, which is 28 divided by 36. Negative divided by negative is positive. We're almost there. We just need to reduce this fraction. And some of you showed me that you were a little bit scared of reducing fractions. You just got to go slowly. That's not 28. I just caught my mistake. That is 18. I'm so sorry. I need new glasses here. That is 18. So let me fix this to an 18. All right. So I always like to read my work over and over again to make sure I didn't make any mistakes. That's a 36. It's a positive 4. When you add a 4 is an 18. All right. I double check my work here. If you catch any of my mistakes that I didn't catch, come and tell me and I'll give you extra credit. So here we go. We have an 18 over 36 equals x. And I need to reduce this fraction. So we have x equals 18 over 36. I just rewrote it in a different way. Let's reduce it. This is reduced by, can be divisible by, it has to be divisible by the same number, top and bottom. And I'm going to divide by 18, because both of these are divisible by 18. Okay? And that makes x equals 18 divided by 18 is a 1. And 36 divided by 18, that's a 2. So we reduce this completely to 1/2. Okay? So 1/2, x equals 1/2. So notice that we just slowly use the distributive property and then combine like terms, and then we use PEMDAS backward to solve it. Okay? The next one we want to do is number 16. Let's flip it over here. On your homework, let's do number 16. I chose number 16 because it has fractions, and that is a scary thing for some students. It says m over 3 plus 1 over 3 equals 2 over 3. Okay, fractions, fractions, fractions. And students get really, really worried about fractions. If you do a certain thing with whole numbers, you do the same exact thing with fractions. It's the same rule, it doesn't change. So don't be afraid. I have a positive 1/3 here. I want to subtract 1/3. So remember, distributive property, I don't have parentheses, so I don't need it. Combine like terms is the skills we need. Combine terms. We don't need anything combined here. There's only one variable. I don't need that. Therefore, I am going to use my PEMDAS backwards. So I can get the m, I want to isolate the letter m. That's my goal. My goal is to get this m all by itself. Okay? So let's use PEMDAS backwards. Is either subtract or add. Well, we have a positive 1/3, so we're going to subtract 1/3. If I subtract it on the left, I better subtract it on the right as well. Okay? So a positive 1/3 with a negative 1/3, that's 0. That equals my m over 3 plus a 0, I guess, if you want to show it. Okay? My m divided by 3 is all by itself now. Now, 2/3 minus 1/3 is just a 1/3. Okay? So there we go. And m divided by 3 equals 1/3. Okay. We took care of PEMDAS by using subtraction or addition. We subtracted the 1/3. Okay, that's done. Now I need to do division or multiplication, whatever is needed. Okay? This is already dividing. It's m divided by 3. Then I must use multiplication. If I multiply by a 3 on both sides, multiply it by a 3, multiply it by a 3. If you do it to the left, you better do it to the right. If you multiply it by 3, then 3 times m and then divided by 3, it's redundant. So they cancel each other. So m equals, dividing by a 3 and multiplying by a 3, it's cancel each other, m equals 1. Okay? So if you want to check, some people are afraid to check fractions, but look at it. If I plug in a 1 for m, 1/3 plus 1/3, doesn't that equals 2/3? Yes, it does. Okay, because 1 plus 1 is 2/3 does equal 2/3. Okay, so we checked it. So notice that I keep checking the 3 things that I've learned so far. Distributive property, combine like terms, PEMDAS backwards. Okay, until I get the variable isolated, whatever variable that is. And that should cover your 1.2 homework. So if we can do a little conclusion here, just a little set of notes. Okay, always if I see parentheses, okay, if you see a number multiplying some other values in the parentheses, you might need to use the distributive property. Okay, if I have more than one variable, more than one variable, we need to combine like terms. Combine terms. Combine like terms. Okay, that's another thing I need to check for. And last but not least, if I'm trying to isolate for a variable, If I'm trying to get a variable all by itself, like we did with m here, we always use PEMDAS backwards. Okay, we're using it backwards. We always start with subtraction or addition, whatever is needed, and then we move on to division and multiplication, and then we move on to parentheses. But usually we'll be able to solve it at this level in Math 1. We'll be able to solve for the variable by the time we get to here, because we are really not dealing with exponents. E is for the exponents. We're really not dealing with exponents at this level. And if I get to a parenthesis, it's because I need to use my distributive property or undo something in the parenthesis, addition or subtraction. So these are the three things we're going to keep checking and we're going to keep using all the time. Okay? And that concludes, it's a 25-minute video for 1.2. Good luck.